few weeks ago I made a video about the Big Garden Birdwatch, which takes place every year in the UK. But did you know that there's a version specifically designed for schools?
Subscribe to Ferroforest to keep learning about UK nature.
21 years ago, the RSPB launched the very first Big Schools Birdwatch, which took the methodology of the Big Garden Birdwatch and extended it out over January and February so that schools could take part with their entire classes and count birds that landed on school grounds. Now in 2001, when the first Big Schools Birdwatch ran, I was quite young and I can't remember whether I was actually part of that first initiative, but I do remember being very young during my first Big Schools Birdwatch, so I must have taken part in one of those few early year ones. Now, I don't really think I understood why I was being marched down to the youngest school hall and asked to line up against the windows with my class to count birds that were landing on the other side of the window. But what I do remember is the first time that a bird landed on the grass that matched one of the photos I was holding, and that rush of excitement that I felt. This was my first time studying wildlife actively in any sort of way, and I was hooked. Now, it would take me another 10 years before I fully realised that you could make studying wildlife into your job, and another 10 years on top of that before I became fully qualified enough to actually get those jobs. But I truly believe that participating in something like the Big Schools Birdwatch can get a future wildlife biologist onto the correct path for them very early on.
But why is the Big Schools Birdwatch so important to the scientists at the RSPB? Well, I actually answered this in my last video, which I'll make sure to link to below. But as a basic summary of what I discussed in detail in that video, in order to manage populations of different bird species, we actually need to understand how many birds there are and where they are.
By having this information, we can classify them into categories by which species are at risk of extinction and by which species require the most intense conservation work.
The fifth review of the conservation status of British birds came out in December of 2021 and discusses how up-to-date evidence means that different bird species have changed their conservation status, and how based on this, new conservation management plans will need to be drawn up to hopefully save various species. I went into detail about the species mentioned during my last Birdwatch video, or you're welcome to follow the link in the description to read this review in full.
Ultimately, surveys like the Big Schools Birdwatch allow us to monitor different bird species populations and track as they change year on year so that we can step in if any populations seem to be in danger. So, how do you actually sign up your school for the Big Schools Birdwatch, and how can you incorporate this into your curriculum?
Registering for the project is simple. Just head over to the RSPB website, click on the Fun and Learning tab, and then go to the Big Schools Birdwatch link. Here you can click the link to register, fill in the details, and then get access to a variety of resources to help you set up lesson plans around the survey. Once you've taken your class to do the hour-long survey on school grounds, you just submit your results online and you have contributed to science.
There are lots of resources that have been put together by the RSPB that can help you incorporate the Big Schools Birdwatch into your curriculum. They even have things like lesson plans that include descriptions on discussions you can have with students to talk about UK bird species and the benefits that they can bring to our natural world.
Along with the actual survey, there are also a range of activities they provide resources for. This includes crafting bird feeders and paper birds, reading fictional stories about birds, creating posters themed around your school's birdwatch, and creating snappers. Many of these resources also have Welsh language versions.
For the survey itself, there are different counting sheets online that you can print off and let children use. These are geared at different age groups, with the most basic ones having a series of dots that children can circle around to show their count.
At a higher level, there are blank boxes so that children can choose their own recording methods. The common species included on these counting sheets are house sparrows, blackbirds, blue tits, robins, starlings, chaffinches, wood pigeons, magpies, carrion crows, black-headed gulls, feral pigeons, and great tits.
So which species can you expect to see the most of? Well, last year the top 10 species seen, in order from the most seen and then descending, were wood pigeons, blackbirds, house sparrows, starlings, magpies, carrion crows, robins, blue tits, black-headed gulls, and then feral pigeons. Are you going to participate in the Big Schools Birdwatch? Make sure to check out some of my other videos so you can see which other types of wildlife you could spot while you're counting birds.